You know how a physical combination lock works, right?
Yeah, of course. You spin the dial, hit the numbers, and it opens.
Right, exactly. You hit the exact right numbers in the exact right sequence, and you get that satisfying mechanical click. The heavy steel door just pops open.
Right. There's no guesswork at all. It's just a physical guarantee.
Yeah, you either have the right input or you don't. But what if that lock wasn't physical? What if you were standing in front of an invisible door and the combination wasn't made of numbers engraved on a metal dial, but it was made entirely of sound?
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like a lock where you had to hit the exact right frequencies, uh, the right acoustic resonance in the exact right order, just to make those invisible atmospheric tumblers click into place.
Well, I mean, that shifts the paradigm entirely, right? Because now you aren't just using your hands to manipulate a physical object.
No, not at all.
You're using your voice, your breath, your mind, literally altering the energetic architecture of the space around you. You're moving out of mechanics and straight into physics and acoustics.
Exactly. And that invisible acoustic combination lock is exactly what we are diving into today. Welcome to the deep dive, by the way. Today we're exploring a really fascinating transcript from Osman.
Ah, yes. He's known online as the blind Muslim yogi, right?
Yeah, exactly. He's an entrepreneur, an energy healer, and a yoga and meditation teacher. He runs yogawellness786.com. And he approaches the ancient world of mantras and incantations from this profoundly uh, systematic perspective.
He really does. But, before we get too deep into the mechanics of those invisible locks, we really should establish his baseline philosophy,
Yeah, that's crucial.
because it frames literally everything else he talks about. He is very clear right from the jump that the natural therapies he offers are complementary.
Right.
They are not miracle cures, and they are absolutely not a replacement for, licensed medical treatment.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. He specifically points out that relying on natural strategies requires you to take intense personal responsibility for your own lifestyle habits. You can't just expect some magical acoustic fix without putting in the real, grounded, day-to-day work to maintain your physical and mental health.
It's a very pragmatic foundation, which I appreciate, especially for a topic that usually gets painted with this purely mystical sort of new age brush.
Yeah, totally.
He's explicitly grounding the esoteric in personal accountability. Like, if you want the esoteric tools to work, your foundation in the physical world has to be solid first.
Which brings us to our mission for you listening today. We are going to explore Osman's breakdown of mantras and incantations, but we aren't looking at them as folklore or campfire magic.
Right, we're looking at them as a science.
Exactly. A highly structured yoga science. We are going to uncover what they actually are mechanically, why they seem to fail for almost every modern person who tries them, and the radical time compression technique he suggests for actually making them work.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean?
Well, it means we need to start by redefining what we think we know about the nature of sound. Because before we can understand why a mantra fails, we have to look closely at what Osman claims a mantra actually is from a purely scientific, yoga-based perspective.
He definitely isn't talking about poetry here.
No, not at all.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this is where the combination lock metaphor really comes to life.
Go for it.
So Osman defines mantras as a specific group of sounds that create a highly specific frequency. And these frequencies, they don't just float off harmlessly into the ether.
Right.
He says they reverberate in a highly disciplined, controlled manner to bring about a specific, tangible function. And when I read that, I immediately thought of sympathetic resonance.
Oh, that is the perfect scientific parallel. Sympathetic resonance.
Right. Like, think about when an opera singer hits that one piercingly exact high note, and the crystal wine glass across the room just shatters.
Yeah,
The singer isn't using a magic spell to break the glass. They're using physics.
exactly. They are producing a sound wave that structurally matches the natural resonant frequency of the crystal. And that structural match invites the transfer of energy right up until the glass can physically no longer handle the vibration.
Boom. It shatters. And there is no mysticism required to break that glass. It is pure acoustic engineering.
And Osman is suggesting that mantras operate on that exact same principle of cause and effect. It's just applied to much broader aspects of our physical and psychological reality.
Yeah, it's not about wishing for something really hard with your eyes closed. It's about vibrating a specific sound code to tangibly alter the environment.
And the real-world functions he lists for these acoustic codes are wild.
I mean, they aren't just for finding inner peace or calming your nervous system.
Not at all. The applications he lists are incredibly pragmatic, and some are surprisingly material.
Yeah, like what?
Well, he talks about mantras designed specifically to help you build wealth.
Which is crazy to think about.
Right. He mentions frequencies designed to evolve your consciousness spiritually,
Ah,
codes to protect against negative environmental energies, and very specific vibrations to help you overcome your own internal loop of negative thoughts.
he even mentioned using them to become more popular. Like
Right.
literally, to become more socially appealing to the people around you.
Yeah, that one stood out to me too.
But the one that genuinely made me pause, like the absolute most surprising use case he listed, was using specific incantations to improve your manipulative capacity.
Yes, that is a heavy claim.
Right. He literally says there are ancient mantras designed to help you manipulate people into your way of thinking. So you can win arguments and get things done your way more often than not.
It is a striking claim, and it can sound almost nefarious at first glance.
Totally.
But this is precisely why he distinguishes this practice from magic and frames it as a science. If we view this purely through the lens of cause and effect frequency, like your opera singer and the glass, it changes the context entirely.
How so? Like, break that down for me.
Well, think about how the brain works. Our brains operate on measurable electromagnetic frequencies, right? Like beta waves when we're alert or anxious, alpha waves when we are relaxed. So if you produce a sound code, a specific acoustic vibration, that alters the psychological state of a person sitting across from you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, say by nudging their brain waves from a defensive, argumentative beta state into a more receptive, relaxed alpha state. Making them more open to your argument is just a mechanical outcome of a specific vibration.
That is mind-blowing.
It strips away the moral judgment we usually attach to the word manipulation and treats it as a biological, acoustic interaction.
So if you have the right frequency, you can essentially hit the right note to make the nervous system of the person across from you agree with you.
That's the idea.
But, okay, that immediately leads us to the giant flashing neon question at the center of all this.
I think I know what you're going to ask.
If these sound frequencies genuinely work, if there is literally an acoustic cheat code to build wealth, become popular, and win every argument, why isn't everyone walking around completely rich, untouchable, and invincible?
Yeah, that is the natural logical leap. If the technology is real, where are the results?
Exactly.
And Osman addresses this head-on. He observes that while these mantras have been practiced successfully from authentic sources for thousands of years, in our current day and age, they only seem to work for a tiny fraction of a percentage of people.
A tiny fraction.
Yeah, the failure rate today is absolutely staggering.
And he breaks down that massive failure rate into 3 specific reasons, right?
He does.
So the first one is just wrong technique, which makes total sense based on our acoustic model.
Right.
If you mispronounce the combination, if you don't hit the exact resonance of the crystal glass, the lock stays shut and the glass doesn't break.
Exactly. The physics require precision. Close enough just doesn't count in sympathetic resonance.
Yeah. And the second reason is a profound lack of discipline.
This is a big one.
He notes that people simply cannot hit the massive number of repetitions required with any kind of consistency. And I want to pause here for you listening, because this hits hard.
It really does.
If you're listening to this deep dive on your morning commute, or while you're scrambling to fold laundry before a Zoom meeting, you already know that finding 20 uninterrupted minutes of pure focus is practically a miracle.
Oh, yeah.
The sheer psychological weight of the discipline Osman is talking about is crushing for a modern mind.
It is. I mean, we are constantly fragmented. We don't just lack the time. We lack the sustained, unbroken attention span required to generate the necessary energetic friction.
But the third reason he gives for this staggering failure rate is the one I really tripped over.
The absolute requirement for expert initiation.
Yes. He insists that you cannot just read a mantra out of a book or copy it off some wellness website and expect it to work.
No, he says you have to receive it from a qualified master.
Someone who actually possesses the quote-unquote power to transmit it to you. He even notes that some people claim to give this initiation, but they only have minimal power themselves, so it still doesn't yield substantive results.
Right.
And I had to push back on this a little bit. Is this requirement of getting the power from an expert just a convenient ancient loophole?
How do you mean?
Like, is it just a built-in excuse to explain away why a mantra didn't make someone rich? Oh, well, you didn't get the magic transfer from a real master. That's why your bank account is empty.
Ah, I see.
Or is there a genuine necessary transfer of experiential mechanical knowledge happening there?
This raises an important question. And your skepticism is completely valid.
It just sounds so convenient.
From the outside, it absolutely sounds like a convenient out for a failed system. But if we connect this back to how complex physiological systems operate in the real world, it starts to look less like a magical loophole and more like an absolute mechanical necessity.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about learning to play a wildly complex instrument, like a violin.
Okay.
You can go to a store and buy the exact same sheet music the master uses. You can even buy the exact same Stradivarius violin.
Sure.
But if you just sit in your living room trying to teach yourself from a diagram, you are going to sound terrible. The instrument will just screech.
Well, yeah, because you don't know the microscopic adjustments.
Exactly.
You don't know the exact pressure of the bow on the strings, the tension in your shoulder, the precise angle of your wrist.
A true master doesn't just hand you the sheet music. When they teach you, they transmit the embodied somatic knowledge of how to play the instruments.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They adjust your posture, they teach your nervous system how to regulate the breath, they show you how to feel the resonance in your own jawbone.
I see.
In Osman's framework, handing over the word, the raw text of the mantra, is just handing over the sheet music.
That makes a ton of sense.
The power he's talking about transmitting could really be understood as the energetic and somatic transmission of the exact internal posture.
The subtle mental state.
Right, the exact placement of the tongue, the precise nervous system regulation required to actually execute the frequency. Without the mentorship of someone whose body and mind already know how to hold that specific frequency, you're just making noise.
You have the recipe, but you don't know how to cook. Okay, so it moves it from a magical blessing into a necessary physiological alignment. But even if you find the master, even if you get the perfect somatic technique and the initiation...
You still have the time problem.
Right. We are still faced with Osman's second reason for failure, which is the discipline and the massive time commitment. Because the ultimate bottleneck here isn't just technique, it's the modern clock.
It is the great equalizer. Osman provides some very sobering math on what this ancient discipline actually looks like in practice.
Yeah, lay that out.
For a normal person to do the required repetitions for just one single mantra, operating at a normal human pace, it takes about 3 hours a day.
3 hours.
Oh.
For one single sound code.
Yep.
He says if you want the benefits of, say, 4 important mantras in your daily life, maybe one for health, one for wealth, one for protection, you are looking at 6 to 7 hours of highly focused acoustic practice every single day.
Right.
That is quite literally a full-time job.
Well,
it is completely impossible for someone holding down a career, raising a family, or just trying to survive in the modern economy.
Which logically forces us to look at his proposed solution for this impossible time crunch. Because Osman is a pragmatist.
Right. He doesn't just say, well, tough luck.
Exactly. He doesn't say the modern world is too busy so you don't get the benefits. He introduces a concept that is frankly radical but essential if these ancient sciences are going to survive today.
What is it?
He claims you can compress a 3-hour repetition cycle into just 20 minutes.
And you can do this without skipping a single syllable or compromising the pronunciation.
That's what he says.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because when I read that, I couldn't wrap my head around how you just speak faster without ruining the frequency.
Right. That wouldn't work.
But then I realized it's exactly like computers. What Osman is describing sounds identically to overclocking a computer's CPU.
I like where this is going. Break that down for me.
Okay, so if you have a massive software program, let's call it our 3-hour mantra, and you run it on a standard factory setting processor, it takes exactly 3 hours to execute that code.
Makes sense.
But if you are an expert and you know how to safely hack the hardware, you can overclock the CPU. You unlock a higher processing speed in the physical hardware itself.
Ah, I see.
You are still running the exact same software, line for line, perfectly. But the brain of the computer is vibrating at a higher capacity, so it executes the exact same amount of code in a fraction of the time.
That is a brilliant way to conceptualize the mechanics here. Because Osman is very clear that time compression isn't about just rushing your words.
You aren't just mumbling quickly.
No. Instead, you are fundamentally changing your own biological hardware. He states that you achieve this compression by accessing the higher frequency capacities of the human brain and mind and tapping into what he calls quantum levels using yoga sciences.
But what does quantum levels actually mean mechanically? Because, I mean, that sounds like one of those buzzwords that gets thrown around a lot in the wellness space to explain away things that don't make sense.
I know what you mean, but if we connect this to the bigger picture of neuroscience and deep meditative states, it actually makes a lot of mechanical sense. When Osman talks about higher frequency capacities, think about what happens to the human nervous system in states of profound master-level meditation.
Right.
A normal person goes about their day in a beta brainwave, state-reactive, linear, constrained by normal time. But highly trained practitioners can willfully shift their brainwaves into deep theta or even high-frequency gamma states.
And those states change how we experience time, right?
Exactly. In those highly coherent states, subjective time massively dilates. The nervous system is processing energetic data at a vastly accelerated rate.
Wow.
You are literally packing more energetic density into a single second of physical time. So if you have upgraded your internal processor to operate in that high-frequency state, 20 minutes of physical clock time can hold the exact same energetic output and acoustic repetition as 3 hours of normal linear beta state time.
That's wild.
The frequency of the mind is vibrating so intensely that time essentially folds around the practice.
It's not magic. It's literally neuroplasticity and state control pushed to an extreme level. You have to upgrade your own internal processor.
Exactly.
And that circles perfectly back to why the expert initiation is so critical. You can't just teach yourself how to safely overclock your own nervous system into a gamma state while doing laundry.
No, definitely not.
You need a guide who knows how to navigate those higher brain capacities without burning out the hardware.
Precisely. Once you have that guidance and you unlock that capacity, you bypass the friction of linear time.
It is an absolutely massive concept.
It really is.
We have this incredibly strict, precise science of sympathetic resonance. We have acoustic frequencies that have to be mathematically exact. They have to be somatically transmitted by a master and executed on a biologically overclocked brain.
It's a lot of rules.
It feels very rigid, very ancient, very rule-bound. But then, as we move through his material, we have to reconcile all of those incredibly strict rules with Osman's own diverse background.
Right.
And he makes a claim toward the end of the transcript that completely threw me for a loop.
You are talking about his assertion regarding cross-cultural practices and the true nature of conviction.
Yes, because up to this point, we've been talking about this strictly as yoga science. But Osman notes that these precise sound practices exist across almost every major tradition on Earth.
Yes.
He explicitly points to Vedanta, Christian, Buddhist, and Islamic sciences, all utilizing this technology.
Which, mathematically speaking, makes perfect sense. If sympathetic resonance is a universal physical law, it shouldn't be confined to one specific language or religion.
That's true.
A Christian monastic chant, a deep Buddhist om, or an Islamic dhikr might be using completely different linguistic symbols and cultural frameworks. But structurally, the vowel sounds and the rhythmic repetition might be hitting the exact same mathematical ratios to produce an identical calming effect on the human nervous system.
That's a great point. The physics of sound don't care about your theology.
Right.
And Osman brings in his own deeply personal context here. He is a Muslim. The 786 in his website and channel name is a numerical representation of a sacred Islamic phrase.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Exactly. He talks about actively practicing Islamic incantations recommended by the Prophet, using them very pragmatically for protection, for removing negative situations, and for smoothing out the friction of daily life.
He is a pragmatist through and through. He looks at these cross-cultural traditions not as competing dogmas, but as a vast universal toolkit of acoustic technologies.
Yeah.
But it's his observation over his lifetime of using this toolkit that is truly startling.
Startling is an understatement. He says that in his 56, now 57 years of life, experimenting widely with all of these different traditions, he has never come across a mantra that didn't work.
Right.
He outright refuses to say that only a fraction of authentic mantras work. He says they all work.
Yeah.
But then he drops the ultimate twist.
So here we go.
He claims that you can actually just make up your own incantation, completely invent it.
Yeah.
And it will still work, provided you do two very specific things. You repeat it long enough, and you do it with absolute conviction.
Which seemingly upends the entire architectural framework we just spent all this time building.
Right. I'm pushing the pause button here, because this is a glaring paradox. For the last 10 minutes, we've been saying that mantras are highly specific, ancient sound frequencies.
The combination lock.
They are combination lock. You have to hit the exact right resonance to shatter the glass. You need a master to somatically transmit the exact technique.
Right.
But now, he is saying, I can just Make up a completely random string of syllables repeated a bunch, and it will manifest tangible changes in physical reality. Doesn't human conviction completely override the actual physics of the sound at that point?
What's fascinating here is that it absolutely appears contradictory on the surface, but it actually reveals the deepest, most foundational layer of the mechanism.
Okay, I'm ready.
Let's think about what conviction actually is in this context. It is intensely focused, sustained human willpower and attention. If those specific, mathematically perfect ancient mantras are like a beautifully engineered magnifying glass designed perfectly to catch the rays of the sun and effortlessly start a fire, maybe a made-up improvised incantation is like rubbing two dry sticks together.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see where you're going.
The ancient mantra is highly efficient. It works so well because the geometric frequency of the sound itself does a massive amount of the heavy lifting. The sympathetic resonance is dialed in.
Yeah.
But if you have enough raw, sustained conviction, enough sheer energetic friction, and you repeat your made-up word long enough, you can still start the fire.
That makes so much sense.
Conviction might actually be the primary fuel that drives the frequency. It acts as the ultimate bridge between the specific ancient acoustic sciences and raw human intention. The vibration of the sound is the vehicle, but human conviction is the engine moving it forward.
So the combination lock absolutely still exists, and the ancient acoustic codes are the fastest, most elegant way to open it. But if you have enough sheer force of will, enough absolute conviction, you can basically just melt the steel door off its hinges through friction alone, regardless of the combination.
Precisely. It suggests that our intention, our profound belief, when sustained relentlessly over time through repetition, literally shapes the energetic field around us.
Oh.
Whether we are using an ancient Sanskrit phrase refined over millennia or a deeply personal sentence we wrote in our journal this morning, the focus is what bends reality.
That is incredibly empowering, but also a little terrifying when you really think about the daily implications of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And that perfectly brings us to the end of our deep dive today. We have covered some immense territory. We started by decoding the invisible mechanics of sound, looking at mantras not as folklore or magic, but as a precise science of sympathetic resonance capable of manipulating the psychological and physical world.
We examined the very real, very heavy hurdles of modern life. The lack of precise technique, the missing somatic mentorship, and the sheer crushing discipline required.
Yeah.
And how tapping into higher frequency brain capacities, altering our own neuroplasticity, can quantum hack the clock, dilating time to turn 3 hours into 20 minutes.
And finally, we collided with the paradox of conviction, discovering that sustained human belief might actually be the true engine behind the acoustic frequency. And this brings it all back to you, listening right now.
It always comes back to the listener.
Because when you strip away the ancient languages, the quantum physics, and the complex brainwave states, this is ultimately about what you are actively vibrating out into the world. How do you approach the daily routines, the habits, or the silent incantations in your own life?
It is a question of profound personal responsibility, which loops us perfectly back to Osman's foundational philosophy. You are constantly generating frequencies and energetic friction every single day, whether you are consciously aware of them or not.
Exactly. Which leaves us with a final thought for you to take away.
Yeah.
Think back to that invisible combination lock we talked about at the very beginning. If Osman is right, if even a completely made-up arbitrary phrase can manifest real-world changes just through sheer repetition and sustained conviction, what subconscious mantras are you silently repeating to yourself every single day without even realizing it?
That's the real question.
And more importantly, what reality are those silent mantras currently building for you?
We'll leave that question hanging in the air for you to explore as you go about the rest of your day.